Hey there guys, this is Obsidian Chill. Got another video for you today. In this video we'll be taking a look at the new ally that's a part of episode 42, the Batman Who Laughs. I wanted to wait on this video just because there was a lot of changes and a lot of bugs that happened with the ally. It wasn't really working as correctly, so I didn't see the point in showing you guys a video that the ally would completely change, then I have to do another video, and then most people end up watching the first video and see all the bugs. So the ally is in a good place right now. There will be timestamps in the comment section as well as the description if you want to skip to the damage section or the passives or passive A, passive 2. Before we touch on that, there is a couple of changes to the legendary allies and allies in general that I wanted to share. So Batman Who Laughs will be purchasable on the vendor, Cyborg vendor, for 500 source marks each, along with the other legendaries. So if you don't have 500 marks, they're still going to be in the marketplace for whatever, 22.50 or whatever they were before, station cash or loyalty points, but you can also purchase them for 500 source marks. The other change is that they've made the description of the allies a lot more detailed in terms of similar how they do artifacts. So this won't really help you because obviously you're going to have it collected. So what you're going to have to do, it's a little bit convoluted, but go to the ally screen. Just ignore these abilities now because the same thing, they're not really descriptive. What you want to do is go to the Fortify screen. And even if you have it maxed out, you'll be able to see each rank. So say I had only had this at rank 10, it would show a current rank bonus is 8 and then 20-second duration and what the percentages were. So it's going to do that for each ally. So for example, if I pulled up like Nubia, it's going to show what her passives are at the current rank bonus. So that's a nice change. Now you guys get to see a little bit more detail to what allies are doing in terms of what their ranks are. Same thing for like Cyborg. You just have to go to the Fortify screen and then look at there like you would an artifact, because that's the only way to access it. So we'll jump to the damage portion here. Okay, so before we jump into the damage numbers, I just want to show you actually what the spawn animation and his attack pattern will look like. So we'll summon him here. So you can see the nice card animation. And we'll get him to teleport, and then, or not teleport, but blink is what it's referred to. And then you can see him just doing his chain attack. And he does a card throw. So, let's show you the numbers. Okay, so just before we touch on the damage aspect, I just want to touch on the ally favor and catalyst breakdown again. You can always pause the screen here if you need to, but because Batman Who Laughs is a legendary ally, it's going to fall into that 299,000 XP, 272 catalyst with a 113, 92, and 67 breakdown. In terms of if you bought it from the marketplace, that's what you need. And source mark wise, that's what you need as well for cost. So, looking at the damage, Batman Who Laughs 1 through 10 maxes out at 279,000. I will say you'll get a little bit higher results on live server because this is tested at CR339, just because that's where all the other allies were tested at. So that's why if you're on live server, you're like 350 CR, 348, depending on what you did with the glitch. And then obviously with the new DLC, you'll be like 360, 361, something like that. So obviously the damage will be higher, but I mean, all comparison-wise, it's still the same. So 279. Level 10 puts it above Nubia, puts it above Aquaman. Still is lower than Batman. Batman also has the increased single target damage, which this doesn't account for on bosses. Still obviously much higher than Flash and Zoom. Cyborg is still the top one. And then you've got House Legends, which is pure single target, but still good damage. So, because of how strong the passive abilities are with Batman Who Laughs, you're not going to be using him for the damage. If you still have Nubia, Nubia is still obviously a potential as well. But with how the passives work in terms of the power regen card, which I know I'm kind of skimming ahead to, but let's just say there is a passive ability with Batman Who Laughs that does help your power regen, which means you wouldn't need Cyborg necessarily as a passive, and then you could use him as DPS. So, for example, for what I'm going to do on live server, I'm going to have Cyborg as a DPS. I'm going to have Batman Who Laughs as support, and then Nubia as support. Because I have Aquaman as well, but Aquaman, in terms of his supercharged regen, that's really only power step specific. So like if I'm using like Rage or Electric or something where I'm spamming like a 2500 supercharge, that's possible. because obviously more supercharges you use, the faster cooldown you get on Cyborg for more damage, but all command's kind of situational. I'd rather have the buff from Nubia, because that's just me helping the group, but doing that damage. So, once again, nothing crazy, nothing OP or anything like that. You've got Batman's better, Cyborg is better, House of Legends is going to be better on a single target. So just to show you that here, now single target, I haven't tested the previous level, so I get around to that. It's just a lot of extra work. But 278, so it's pretty much the exact same on single target as AoE. Nubia is 258, 258. Batman's going to be a little bit higher or lower. Wouldn't necessarily trust those numbers. Actually, no, that makes sense, because even though his dual pistol attacks are single target, they're not that high. You still have the AoE grenades, and the AoE grenades is most of his damage. So that figure makes sense. But then you got House of Legends bot being like 236, which is a rare, so everyone should have it regardless. And the Cyborg obviously is through the roof as well, but that depends on if you have near wall. So that's the damage breakdown. Once again, his passives are so strong that I don't believe many will be using him for DPS, but if you want to know the numbers, that's what they are. Okay, so taking a look at the first passive stats, we'll show the base damage or base stats first, so you can see the overall health. 269, 284, 127, 577 might, precision 50,018. This is just so that you can see the card effects apply. You'll be able to see what they were. So critical attacks 136, weapons 46%. You see the crits there. So let's now show which each card effect will happen. Okay, so you saw the Batman card. The Batman card is a percentage increases of the stats. So precision, Dom, might, you're going to see them all drop by 5%, or precision goes up by 2.5, sorry. So you'll see these drop momentarily, but that's the Batman card. It's just a flat stat increase. I think similar to like an Omega, but you'll see as it stacks with Omega. But precision is 2.5, sorry. Everything else is by 5. That's the Batman card. Okay, so we just got the Enigma card there. Enigma card's a lot harder to show because that is the power regen one. So it's more so kind of subjective depending on what kind of power set you were. Say if you're mental or hard light, with combination of that ability and Cyborg, you have massive power regen. It's going to last for 20 seconds with a 10-second cooldown, but it's more so there to help. So if you're like a high power and power set, mental, atomic, hard light, etc., it's going to be useful there, but just hard to show. Okay, so the Gaia card, that's going to be the health one. So now if we go to our stats, health will be 291, 357. So just it increases your overall health HP. So if we go back to the card here, increase max health. So it's more beneficial, like say for like a tank, for example, but you saw the 291, now it's down to 269. So that'll be the health card. Okay, so we got the Frigger card. Frigger card is going to be the crit impact. So if we go down to our stats, 136, 53.5. Like 136 already stays the same. It's the critical chance. So 53.5, 53.5, 33.5, and 13.5. You can see those change about 10 seconds. Now you saw that down to 46 base. So all the damage doesn't change. All the chances will increase. Power, healing, ability, and attack. Ability, if you weren't sure, that is going to be for actual powers. Critical weapons be for precision attacks, and then obviously you know what healing and power chance to be. So that's the Frigger card. Okay, so now that you saw what the passives look like in game in terms of how they activate and what they do, let's take a closer look at them here. So first of all, let's look at the distribution. Now I will say this is I should have done this slightly different in terms of graphing it. At the time, I wasn't necessarily thinking about it. I think it would be better as like a scatter plot in terms of you can see how many per row you're getting. But I mean, in the same thing, it's going to show the same information. So what this does, I did 100 card flips, so 100 chances. As you can see, the distribution is pretty even. But there's going to be instances where you say you get like 3 Gaias in a row or 3 Enigmas in a row or like 4 Friggers in a row. I mean, that's possible. But as you can see from this, throughout the entire instance or content, you're going to average out. So there's going to be times where you have like 3 cards in a row, maybe the same, or 2 cards, or flop between 2. but in the end, it's pretty much always going to be the same in terms of distribution. So, I mean, that's the important thing, because, I mean, you do have 1 in 4 chance of getting the card you want, but at least if they all are active, it's not heavily favored towards the crits and DPS. It's also favoring the support roles as well. Also, kind of highlight as well, technically the cooldown is 30 seconds. If you get a proc, it's 30-second cooldown before it can proc again. Now, technically, since the duration is 20 seconds, if the cooldown is really only 10 seconds. So you have a 10-second window between each card, have it activating. Now, it doesn't necessarily, because you're in combat, it's not always going to proc at that 30-second mark. It just has the chance to. So after 30 seconds, it has the chance to proc. Usually when I was in combat on the sparring targets, testing it in raids, it's fairly back-to-back. There's obviously going to be some situations where it may not proc or wait to proc with the delay. But I saw a lot of it was like 31 seconds, 32 seconds, 33 seconds, like all really close. So in terms of the breakdown in ranks, Gaia being the health buff card, critical increase, power regen, and stat increase. Rank 4, 5-second duration, 7.5, 10, 12.5, 15, 17.5, and 20. So obviously, it's still going to be a 30-second cooldown regardless. So it just means that at rank 4, it's a 30-second cooldown, but you only get 5. So that means you got 25 seconds where it's not going to activate. So it's one of these things where this artifact is definitely going to be in the meta. I have no reason to expect it's not going to be in the meta. So break out your XP and your Catalyst, because it's certainly, right now, I don't see an ally as helpful besides like Cyborg and House of Legends. So it's now there's definitely a top 3 in terms of artifacts. And I say that because everything, like no matter if you're DPS or support role, it still helps you. I mean, controller, yeah, there's not a ton of things to help controller. Power regen card, you don't really need that unless you're like a claw troll, but health buff is going to be great for survivability. It's going to be great for tanks, especially great for fire. I mean, the critical increase, because it buffs all criticals, once again, for like, say, for fire tanking, it's going to buff your critical heals as well as everything else. Same thing for trolls, critical power. DPS, obviously, is going to be great because it's your critical attack and ability chance. The stat buff, I mean, this stacks as well, so which I'll show it below, but, I mean, who doesn't like a free Omega buff, essentially? It's a 5% buff at 20-second duration. So it's definitely, you can see it's worth it to level it up, because you're looking at like 5 to 10 seconds at rank 4 to 6, but a 20-second buff at rank 10. So yeah, it's a lot of XP, but I feel like in this case it's going to be worth it. It's not OP because it's randomized. So if you're a DPS, and like technically you could lose because you get more health card procs or Enigma procs rather than the other DPS always getting Batman or Frigger. So it does have some RNG element to it, which is why it's not an OP ally. It's certainly something that can be OP depending on obviously how lucky you are. So that's the breakdown. In terms of some parsers that I did, this is the baseline parsers with munitions single target. With the Frigger card, this one was a bit harder to test because it's basically just a might buff, so it's the 7.5% buff on your criticals. So it really depends if I'm doing heat vision or chain gun. Like it's going to be situational in your rotation. Munitions may not be the best example of that, but as you can still see, it was an 8.5% increase over my baseline. And then the Batman card, which is pretty much just a flat Omega, so it's a 10% increase in damage. Just think of it like you're parsing normally, and then you're parsing with an Omega consumable. So what they stack, they do. So my might with Omega and a Soder, so a Nitro, was 136,388. And then my might with the Batman card proc, Omega and Soder, was 141 and 58. So that's not 5%, that's like 4-ish if you round up. But, I mean, at the same time, the formula is not including my buffed might. It's a little bit different. So it does make sense from that point. But the important thing is that it does stack. So you can buff with Nitro and a compound and still have the Batman buff on top of that. So that's why, once again, it contributes to that being very powerful, because, you have 20 seconds of stats on top of your buff. So that's the Batman and Laughs card there. If you have any questions or concerns, put them in the comment section. Once again, I do feel like this is going to be a meta ally. It's certainly something I'm going to level, and it certainly serves a useful purpose, whether or not you're ice or whether or not you're DPSing. If you're healing, you still get the health buff. You get the power regen buff if you're a healer. You can get the stat increase, so you get the extra resto and dom for your heals. I mean, if you're tanking, you get the health buff and you get the stat increase buff, or if you're fire tanking, etc. for criticals. So it's really beneficial for all support roles and DPS especially as well. I should mention as well, you saw it on the cards, and I mentioned it earlier in the video, but precision, it's not 5%, it's 2.5. So if you're a precision buff, it slightly differs in terms of the scaling here from ranks, because instead of a 5% buff, it's 2.5. So like, you know, rank 6 would be like 0.75 prex, etc. So that's the only difference. So take care, guys. I do apologize for how long this video took, but like I said before, I wanted it to be showing the proper ally in terms of it working as intended, or as much as working intended as possible for release. Take care, guys. Okay, so taking a look at Batman and Laugh's second passive, Toxic Encore. So we'll show that here. So Toxic Encore, when using a finisher on an enemy below 25% health, prepare a bomb that will activate on the next finisher. The activated bomb will release a field of defense reducing toxin for 10 seconds, and then at rank 10 will be a 7% defense debuff. So easiest way to test this will be gadgets with Fear Gas, because Fear Gas does set damage depending on your might. So I'm not wearing escalating might at all. So I fixed might at 127,577, because I'm just setting in DPS stance. This is technically the troll roll. So there's no transformation card, etc. It doesn't affect Fear Gas. It just does fixed damage. So we'll do a couple tests here. So the base damage on the Fear Gas, you'll be able to see here. So we got Fear Gas. When it crit, it was 5419, and then the base damage is 2296. So then when I throw a defense debuff, which, because I'm not wearing Amulet of Rao, will just be the base defense. So now defense debuff is applied, and if I do Fear Gas again, you can see the increased damage because it's the target's defense debuff. So 7225 is the crit, and 3061 is the base. So the defense debuff has expired. It's the same thing. So if do I have Amulet on here? No. It's in my bank. Either way, we just move from 10 to 15%. So now we're going to do a finisher. That's not a finisher. That's me hitting the wrong button. And strategy cards proccing. That's unfortunate. Okay. Now I'm going to hit a finisher. So you can see I just got the Batman and Laughs card. So that means the next finisher I do is going to release that bomb. And then we have a 7% defense for 10 seconds. So I'll use the finisher again. You can see the gas being applied. Now I'm going to use Fear Gas. And you can see there, 2469 and 5827. And then if I go up to the top, with the 10%, it was 7225, 5419. So that's why it's not as strong as that, because it's 7% versus 10. So now what we'll do is, I think they're attacking that target over there. So I'll show you that the defense debuff stacks here in a sec. Let me just do some magic here, and we'll cut away to the sparring target being at full health again. Okay, so now we have our sparring target back below 25%. So now we're going to show with the stacking defense debuff. So we're going to do the finisher. That'll proc the Batman and Laugh card. So the next finisher will be the toxin. We're going to go defense debuff. Finisher, there's the gas. And there's my Fear Gas there, 3320 and 7835. So it does show that the defense debuff stacks with the controller debuff. It also shows that the toxic gas will be at the 7% versus the 10. And it's not just on single target too, you could use it on AoE enemies as well. So it's more geared towards a controller, like with the Batman and Laughs passive cards. The first passive, you've got the power regen, which help controllers a bit in terms of like claw spam. And it gives an opportunity for like a battle troll as well, so you can run a battle troll for the finisher, get a little bit extra damage, as well as you got the extra defense. So if there's a whole bunch of ads, hit one with the finisher, release it, it'll affect everything in the area, and then you can stack it with the Amulet of Rao for the 15% debuff instead of the 10%. So just allowing players and yourself to do more damage. So it's one of those more like, useful utility ones, especially for like say speed feats or certain feat runs. It's going to be more advantageous for that.